Hello and welcome to my cybersecurity chatbot presentation. Today I'll be explaining all the changes that I made in my code for the requirements for my part 2 assignment, and then I'll be demonstrating how my chatbot works with all the new features included in it. Okay, so um, I'll go through my code piece by piece to explain to you all the new sections that I've added for my part 2. It will not be in the order as the rubric says, but um, don't worry, everything is here. So the first thing is what I've added is this. This is basically for the new voice chat. This basically now allows the application to read the prompts that are being said. So let's say, for example, if I enter, I want to view passwords or want to view password safeties, the chatbot will now physically read the prompt out that is meant to give to the user. As we go along, as you can see, these are the same code for part 1. So the play greeting audio is still here. The artwork is still here as well. Um, Here we asked what the username is. We also included this new method, this loading effect method. I'll explain that more as we go along with the code. There's a complete method for that. Maybe ask what the so this is the new feature that I've added. This is for the memory and recall feature. So let's just say, for example, so basically after we enter our name and all that, the chatbot will ask you what cybersecurity topics are you most interested in. The user can either give a response or leave it blank. If they do give a response, it'll display this message saying, great, I'll remember that you're interested in that favorite topic, favorite cybersecurity topic, which is a crucial part of staying safe online. If they don't want to, then they're more than welcome to skip this part and we'll give the response of, don't have one, no problem. We'll explore more cybersecurity topics later. We're supposed to add topics right over here. The more cybersecurity um, topics as they go along with the program. As you can see, there's all the prompts over here. It'll also now, my old code, what I used to do is, it would display the tip of the not a tip of the day, but a random tip fact. Only if a user enters a wrong prompt, it'll say, "Hey, would you like to know a fact about something?" Then the user will say yes or no. You say yes, then it'll display a fact. Now, as soon as you start the application, after you pass the memory feature, it will display a random fact for the day, which I'll demonstrate to you when I run the application. As you go along, here's all the prompts. You can ask about, explain what cybersecurity is, the types, the signs, how to protect yourself, your favorite topic, would like to know more about it, general questions you can ask, like how are you, what is your purpose, and all that good stuff. Or you can exit the application. From part 1, here is the main loop. So this will check if the user's prompt is empty or not. If it is, it'll give this response saying, please enter a valid question. Um, it'll check if the user selected exit, and it'll exit the application. If if the string is not empty or if they did not choose exit, then it'll run this handle user query, which is this here. I also added a new feature which is called which will save the chat's history to a text file. Basically, you talk with the chatbot, have a conversation with them. As soon as you say, okay, I'm done now, press type in exit, it'll close and it'll save all your conversations you had with the chatbot in this text file. Moving on to the handle user query, this is probably the chunkiest part of the code that I've basically worked on. There's a lot to explain here. The first thing that I've added for part 2 was the keyword recognition. So if a user types in um, password, strong password, secure password, all these here would link to the word password, which will of course display the prompt, this create strong password by using mix of letters, numbers, and symbols. Here we have more recognitions. So let's say explain, tell, and what will link to explain, signs, hack, sign, type, attack, different, protect, save, protection, pushing emails, all will link to these here. These are also now the responses. So now one of the requirements for part two is having a what would you call it, a like a random responses basically. So now all what you see here are basically one response. So one response, one response, one response. Oops, sorry. One response. All these are one responses, which it'll randomly go through and pick one to display to the user if they say they want to know more about passwords or whatever, anything related to passwords. It'll display one of these responses here. Same thing for pushings, phishing, sorry. It'll display these random responses. Same for signs, protect types, all these here, types, tips. All these will be different responses that the user can choose. This, of course, is now linked to this, so this will check to see which um, response the user has chosen. So if they chosen phishing, it will now it'll now choose a it'll choose a random count that will display a random response basically from this list here. Same for type, science, protect, all that good stuff. Um, so as part of the um, conversational flow, which was part of the requirements for part two, is to be more sort of natural talking to the chatbot. So let's say, for example, excuse me, they want to know more about a topic. Let's say, for example, they typed in, I want to know more about protecting. It will display a random prompt about protecting. Then the user can type um, one of these responses, more, explain, why, what do you mean. These are responses to trigger the chatbot to say, okay, what would you like to know more about? It'll say, could you please clarify what you'd like to know more about? Thus, it'll now choose, then you'll type in as the user, you want to know more about science, about different cyber attacks, the types of cyber attacks, how to protect yourself, and then it'll display all these, and it'll display more random facts about, more random tips or facts about that particular topic. So these are all parts of this code to make it work. Um, this is the new detection system. So let's just say, for example, um, the user, the user, like I said, as part of the conversation flow, and also as a requirement for part two, is to have more empathy towards the user. So let's say, for example, the user can say, "Oh, I'm worried about cybersecurity. I'm worried about being hacked. I'm curious, or whatever." As you see, there's all the different responses there that you can um, ask the chat, and based on that type of response, it will display a response. So, for example, if you say you are worried, it'll either choose one. If you type in one of these responses, it'll start in this list. It'll check if the word has been chosen, and then boop, pop. It'll display the response to the user. Same thing for curious, frustrated keywords, all that good stuff. This is also part of the recall feature that I mentioned on the top. This basically says, I'll demonstrate this more when the application is running. Let's say, for example, you typed in, you're interested in passwords. The application is like, okay, I'll take note of that, and you continue using the application, blah blah blah. Then you type in passwords again. You say, I'd like to know more about passwords. Boom, the application will detect the password keyword. It will display a random fact about passwords, and then it will display this um, sort of a response saying that, oh yeah, remember that you are interested in passwords, and also make sure to stay updated on the latest practices, just to remind you that it is taking note of the stuff you are saying. This is the error checks. Um, if you have any, if you didn't understand it, you can, if you misspelled something, it'll say, sorry, I didn't understand that. Please type help. If you want to know more, what you can ask the chatbot. So this is the method for playing the audio, which is from part one. The display tip of the day, which is the same responses from my part one, which this basically when you start the application and once you type in your um, your favorite cybersecurity topic you're interested in, um, after that then it'll display this a random fact, one of these random effects to you after that. Typing effect, obviously this is the typing effect for the chatbot. You'll notice the way it types. It's a way it'll like it kind of like types out each individual word, which is pretty cool. Um, Again, I will demonstrate this one once the application is running. Loading effect. Loading effect is basically like the chatbot thinking. That's the best way to put it. So, excuse me. It displays like a loading part screen. I don't know how would you describe it, but it basically looks like the chatbot is trying to think for a response, and then after when it's done thinking, then it displays its response to the user. This is the logic for the save chat history. So basically, as you can see, it saves your chat history once you exit the application into this text file called chat_history.txt, and it will display say chat history saved to the part of the file. Respond to this. This is pretty cool. Respond to speeches. This is again the speech part where it's physically where the chatbot is physically speaking to you with its responses basically. So it's not just like saying nothing. Like it'll respond with speech now. Basically, that's basically what it does. Okay, so that's basically it. I will explain again all the changes I did in my application as we run it. So without further ado, let's run the application, shall we? So now we're going to be running the application. Again, just to keep things short, I will be going over just the key parts of my part two, so it doesn't be too lengthy, this presentation. So I'll be going over the key recognitions and all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's get started.